Hello guys and welcome to the channel. This is WvW. In today's video I want to talk about the new relics that came with Janthir's Wild expansion release. They are the start of many relics to come yet with the expansion, and I have already made a series of videos when I spoke from the start on what my favorite relics, what they do, the best when the relic system got released back in Soto expansion. And I made an update for every relics and new relics that came. You can find it all in the description. But why break the chain? So I will talk about those ones and hopefully the new ones to come. I'll be speaking about what they do, if you should use them, when you should use them, stuff like that. Did they change anything about our builds, and so on. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So those relics have different numbers, or at least most of them, in PvE than in competitives. Starting with Relic of Sorrow. It will put a bubble around you and your allies that will pulse healing for 4 seconds and reduce incoming damage for 20%. A bubble of 240 when you use an elite skill. It's very good defensively. I have seen few people use it in World vs. World as a way to even make it harder for projectile or range to work and to help their allies in general, so they use it in Zergs. However, it depends on your build. Like some builds have some really strong bubbles and barriers against projectile and stuff like that, so a lot of classes might not find it this useful. Besides, remember, if you choose a relic, that means you leave another one. You always have to compare it with other choices that you can put in your build. In World vs. World, it have 10% incoming damage reduction, not actually 20, and I think the healing is also less than this, like around half or something like that. Now this is how it looks. If you put the relic and use an elite skill, it will create this bubble, healing everyone inside it and giving you this effect for the entire duration until it goes away. So, do I see a use for this relic? Like I said, maybe in Zergs and stuff like that, some people can actually find use to it better than other choices, like condition cleanse or movement speed or a little bit of extra damage. So yeah, some people can actually find a good use to it, especially if you can utilize it to its maximum potential, like using it on the cooldown itself. It have a 30-second cooldown, so the shorter you have the elite skill, that means you can access it more. I actually like the concept defensively, but people always in roaming will chase more on damage, and in Zergs even want relics for corruption, stuff like that, things that can burst the other Zerg. But some people use it and I think it's actually decent in a way. Now, second relic is Relic of Atrocity, and this one will give you increased to effectiveness for lifesteal, both damage and healing. It will increase the lifesteal, damage and healing by 15%. So is there any value on this? What does it mean? It will increase only a heal and damage that you can do through the effect of lifesteal. Something like this carnivore trait, for example. Every time you disable a foe, you will do a life siphon damage and a life siphon healing, and it increases it by quite a chunk, because this is probably the hardest hitting lifesteal trait in the game. It's very huge numbers, and 15% of that extra is quite big. And something like Soulbeast, for example, it will also work on Predator Scanning, and I'll show you the numbers here so you can get a quite idea around it. So do I see a reason to actually use this? It have no internal cooldown, it works the same in competitive as in PvE, if I'm correct. So unless you're really depending a lot on the lifesteal damage and or lifesteal healing, like you either support yourself a lot by simply replenishing your health with it, or you want the extra ticks of damage because you constantly do life steal, I don't see a real use to this. So some builds can use it, but they are quite exceptional, especially in PvE. For example, if you're running the trait Carnivore in any open world build or something like that, it will heal you for a better chunk. But however, there is other traits or relics that can heal you for significantly more numbers. For example, the one I like to use with my bar builds is Relic of Norris, which give you every 30 seconds, unless you can actually make it happen quicker through boon removal from the enemy, you will get this effect Norse Hunger for 5 seconds, and you will turn some of your damage into healing. 15%. That's huge number for 5 seconds. You can replenish your health significantly, and in the time you don't have it, use your healing skill, any other sources for healing, for ranger for example, or for untamed, you have the unleash, ambush skill, stuff like that. And more consistent for other builds, it is a bit weaker than this one, but it works exactly or will give you the same level of healing, is Relic of Zakros. Is this one. In PvE, it gives you 4% of all the power damage you do, as long as you have Fury Boon on you, which basically you need to have it permanent on the build, like that, it will turn it to healing, so it's constantly healing you. There is other sources, however this one will never increase your damage, like the effect of Norse Hunger that give you 5 seconds of simply increased damage for 15% and reduce the incoming damage on you and all the other good stuff. But it is constant, so it happens all the time, if you have a really tanky build that can withstand taking bunches. But if you can, I would suggest Relic of Norse if you can handle time without healing, so I always go with this one. So the lifesteal compelling to those choices is not that great. However, like I said, it can be used, especially that it offers a little bit of damage, not only healing, if you're running traits that can actually support. Now, Relic of Stormsinger. So this one have a 3-second cooldown, and every time you use a movement skill, you will get this effect that will last on you for 5 seconds. Your next attack will deliver a chain of lightning. Basically, it will do a hit that can hit up to 3 targets. Once you hit an area around it by 240 radius, everyone will take this hit up to 3 targets. So basically, use a movement skill, let's say like this dagger one, and you will have the effect appear on you. And once you use any other skill to hit a target, this area around the target you will hit will have 3 targets of them damaged by it. Let's see an example on this golem here. So I did a movement, and as you can see I have the effect will last for 5 seconds. And now I did the damage of the relic, as you can see here, the relic hit for that. And I'm on Celestial Condition build. This thing can scale with power nicely and can critically hit. So it have quite the advantage of adding a single skill. It's like adding literally a single skill that will happen automatically with your damage. It's very good for builds that like trying to one-shot or really deliver a meaty hit, not multiple hits. For example, like Greatsword for Ranger, or even the new Spear for Ranger. Simple movement skill, like if you use the Spear 4, it's a movement skill and immediately follows another hit like this one, or the Owl Flight or something like that. You will immediately deliver 2 hits, this one and the Relic one, and the Relic happen even technically an AoE. And if you're running those tricky builds that use Storm Spirit, you can quite increase your damage enough to hopefully one-shot someone. So it's decent in competitive, but it's definitely not designed for, not designed at all for PvE. This is very bad for PvE in a way. The damage is not worth it, and it counts on movement, stuff like that. As long as we have those stat type relics in PvE, it's quite difficult in many builds to add something else, especially if it is this weak. So it is a competitive relic designed for power builds, or especially the heavy hitting ones, and it can be quite good if you have a lot of mobility, so something like warrior, or like we said, melee ranger with hammer, greatsword, spear, anything like that. So I find it quite good, and I would think some people would rather use it than use a flat increase in damage or something like that. It could have a chance if you want to add it to your build, especially if you have a lot of movement with only 3-second cooldown. You will keep giving another hit. I would say the best class probably to use it is the one-shot type Holosmith. This probably would be the best with it, especially that they can run the trait static discharge, so keeping adding more and more and more hits in an instant can be very efficient. So they are probably the best to use a relic like that. Another relic about damage is Relic of the Claw. So this relic will increase your power damage or strike damage that you apply for the duration of 8 seconds every time you disable a foe. It will increase you by 7% your damage for 8 seconds, and you have to CC the enemy again or do a disable in order to keep applying this effect again. So this relic competes with other choices depending on what class you are running. Most people would use something like the Firework or the Thief Relic. So Thief Relic will give you only, it will give you multiple stacks of 1% up to 5, so it's 5% only when you hit an enemy with a weapon skill that use resource or recharge cost. So if you're a thief, it will use initiative. If you're any other class, it will use a cooldown, and you keep stacking this and keeping it as much as possible. It is one of those easier to keep up. It doesn't fall down easily, so a lot of people will go for it quite as a good choice. But the percentage is only 5%. Another choice is Relic of the Deadeye. It's good for Deadeye or something like Ranger because it requires the use of skill cantrip. So if you're playing Untamed, you can run multiple cantrip skills and space them out a bit, and you will have damage increase by 10%. It's much more. Only also for 8 seconds. However, it will always fall off and was quite the problem with it. Something else like the Firework, it will give you 7% for 6 seconds if you use a weapon skill with a cooldown of 20 seconds and more, which also a bit difficult to keep up. It will last for 6 seconds only and will give you the same percentage of 7% if you wanna run something like that in a build. You would have obviously to run a lot of disabling skills, but if you can't run it, that becomes a problem. But if you have a lot of CC, this is obviously the winner. If you're playing something that have constant and repetitive CC, like multiple leaps in a light field, like Scrabber, Thief with Pistol offhand for whatever reason, use that in PvE, something like that. You can constantly keep refreshing it easily for 8 seconds, it is quite decent. However, like I said, for power, I only use the Nurse Relic for the survivability and the increase in damage when it actually happened. I want the extra survivability since you don't have much toughness or healing, you don't add into things like that, so I like to have this ability to just withstand anything in open world. For group content, like for strikes, fractal or something like that, you have all the choices depending on your build. If you have multiple skills in the weapons that can take long cooldown, will help the Relic of Fire. If you simply have short cooldown, so you can repetitively use the Relic of the Thief, or if you use cantrips a lot, like Deadeye or Untamed, for whatever choice, you can use that. And now you can have also another choice for the CC style. You have even other choices like Sgaran Relic that will give you damage increase for 10%, but it have to be to the enemies that actually attack you and you dodge them and stuff like that. And for something like Guardian, for example, it's easy to grant auto protection and resolution. You can increase your damage by 10% simply by the Relic of the Explorer, which is one of the high percentages, something like the cantrip one for the Deadeye. Trap skills for the Dragon Hunter, like depending on your build, choose which one will suit your actually applying damage, which put this relic as one of them equal to the other. Depending on your build, it could be a good choice. Now for the relic that a lot of people got very interested in, Relic of the Rivers. Obviously I have some boon duration since I'm having celestial gear, so this is much higher than it should be. If I go with even higher boon duration, up to 90%, as you can see, it can get up to 8 second alacrity in PvE and regeneration. And in competitive, it's about starting at 2 seconds and can increase like 4 or something like that at maximum. So this relic is very good if your class depend on the dodge as part of its mechanic. So if you're playing something like Vindicator and using it for your own DPS, if you're playing something like Thief, like Condition Seer that uses the dodge to apply, like Condition Daredevil that uses the dodge for part of its damage, it's very good. But if you're playing any other class that dodging is not part of its own damage, then you're wasting time doing your DPS. You're not attacking, you're not using skill, you're simply dodging. So you get the effect of the relic. And once you do that, you actually get the boons. But the boons shave small time of your own skills that you already wasted while not doing your own DPS. So it's not that great. I tested the DPS with it and it actually went down comparing to my own setup for the other builds. So like I said, for a class that actually can use it or can get the benefit of it, it's quite good, but for other classes it's not worth it. It's just something, it's a boon. Besides, I don't go for a relic that would give me boons if I can have another choice that does it. Why is that? Because when you play with other, like now you're in open world, you're trying to solo a champion and someone else came and fight, or 4 other guys, or doing a bounty or meta event. If someone's there, they will probably give you the boon. So if you have an effect, special effect, or your damage increase or stats, you already get the boon from another player, and your stats add to that. But if you choose something to give you the boon, and another person come and give you the boon, now there is no value in it. Because the boon will not change, it will not increase, but you lost the stat that you could have used. So I always stay away from boons if I have another choice that's equal or better, or at least very close. But if the boon is the stronger option that you can get, then obviously choose the boons. Now the last relic is the condition one they added, Relic of the Blightbringer. This one is quite unique in a way, because it can do some cover condition, like very effective, and do some decent damage. So it will give you a stack of an effect called Gorill's Virulent. I don't know how to pronounce this thing. However, this effect on you will stack up to 5 stacks, and once you attack after that, you will apply damage in a 240 radius for 5 targets that will apply to 3 stacks of poison, cripple, and weakness. In competitive, it's only 2 stacks of poison, it's quite weaker. This, the whole thing, have an eternal cooldown of 8 seconds. So from the first attack to put poison the enemy, you will start stacking. And the second attack will do it, the third attack will do it. Until you apply it, then there is a cooldown of 8 seconds and you start doing it again. This relic is very good if you have consistent sources of poison, or if you count completely on poison. That means every, let's just say every like 10 seconds, because you will take time to stack it to 5 with actual hits that do poison. So around, like, depending on your build, you having quickness or not, stuff like that, you will have around 8 seconds, you will have this hit happen every time in PvE. In competitive, it doesn't happen from the start, so you attack an enemy trying to burst them, no, you're doing a stack of poison and another stack of poison until you have the 5 stacks, and now you can trigger the effect. But once you trigger it, it's some seriously good condition cover, especially it happen in an AoE, so you can hit multiple targets or minions or bits, anything that with the target, not only him. Now, you have to stack the 5 because this thing doesn't actually count multiple poisons. So if we attack a target that's actually with multiple hits that do, or multiple stacks of poison at once, like let's say this skill would put 8 stacks of poison, but it will give me 1 stack, because every attack will count individually. So this will give me another one, and then my auto attack chain that will keep applying poison will give another one, and now it applied. You see this animation that happened, and now we have all the stacks. So there is no way to instantly stack it, you have to actually hit 5 times that do 5 poisons in order to reach the maximum stack and then use it. In PvE, again, there's not much use for it because we already have a stat style of relic that we use for my builds, or for almost any condition build. I honestly use Aristocracy. This one, it will give you 3% condition duration for 8 seconds up to 5 stacks, so 15% condition duration that will keep resetting itself every time you apply vulnerability to the enemy. And for it, we use the sigil of Reality. So if an enemy have Defiance bar, or if you flank it, or if any other source in the build do vulnerability, they work very well together to keep up this stack to maximum. With the Trapper rune, then you actually able to get your expertise or condition duration to its maximum with the food. So now I have 80%, and it will give me 15%, that's basically 95%. So I'm not really at 100%, but I'm very close. And if you have other traits to help you, like if I use short bow, I'll probably run something like light on your feet. If you are on Soulbeast, you could be probably running something like oppressive superiority. You already broke 100%, and there is no more than 100% basically. So you're already good to go. And this setup will give you the highest condition damage in a rune, which is the Trapper, and with Malice I use Celestial, and with Frailty it just works very very well and can increase the condition duration of all the condition I do. So for my bleed, for my poison, for my burning, chill, vulnerability, immobile, anything I will do will get this 80. I have no specialized condition duration for a specific condition, like for bleed or poison, like for Cryt rune for example, or something like that. So this setup is still the highest damage, and even if you get very close to it, why even bother? So let's say my DPS will scale higher if I use Relic of the Blightbringer, which it doesn't, but for example, that means it scale higher because of a hit that happened from poison. But the burning I keep spreading on enemy didn't, and if I started killing enemy or moving between few enemies that very fast to kill, maybe I didn't even have time to trigger the Blightbringer. Besides, For my own build, it doesn't really work. My main setup is Axe Torch, and this one is complementary when you get really heavy inside the fight, because it's melee, enemy can be moving, maybe you can't stand in a specific field, maybe trying to tag multiple mobs around you, so you always count more on the Axe Torch style. Besides, it actually do more damage than this setup. This setup is more about boons and the ability to access melee weapons and rotate between you, unleash, ambush, and quickness. So that's why a relic like this is not very optimal. For competitive, for my build, I play both my Condition Druid and my Hybrid Celestial Druid for longbow to deal with siege and stuff like that. Both those builds I use the Speed Relic, because I need to be able to move for the enemy to catch me. It's a distance. I don't have multiple defenses, or you're not Spellbreaker, you're not a Willbender that can just shoot around. People have more mobility than you. I move only with the staff. I have no other movement skill. So I need to be able to simply walk faster, especially if any other players that have increased movement speed, like have super speed or have the speed relic, can simply cleave you by walking. You don't create distance between you. So I'm stuck to it and I can't really use other choices. And even so, if I would, there is no relic here that actually surpass it or offer something that's very good. There was other relics in the past, like Demon Queen was poison in days. Well, I'm playing a druid, so I have a lot of those, but still you can't really forgo something like Relic of Speed in real fight or in roaming in general. So that's it for the video. Tell me what you think in the comment, or any information you think I missed. Share the knowledge, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.